Hello everyone, today we're doing a walk along George Street. St Andrew's Square behind me. We're going to go all the way along pointing out stuff. And this is a funny street actually, because I tried to look up a little bit of history, as is my wont. And I found out that this was the main street that they want when they built the new town into, you know, expand the city, because Edinburgh wasn't managing to compete with other major cities. So that's why they expanded into the new town. Because Edinburgh was just the old town, other cities around the world were just jumping ahead, as in attracting business and things like that. So they created the new town to help Edinburgh generally thrive and come back to life, really. This was supposed to be that main street for people to move into, to enjoy. In fact, with that, when this was all being designed, when the new town was being designed, this street wasn't called George Street on the original plans. Obviously they hadn't decided what the street names were going to be called. It was called the Principal Street. Does that not tell you something about the time? Not the main street or anything like that, the Principal Street. Anyway, the first time we come to, here's the Dome, which is a beautiful big fancy restaurant and building. Have a look at this. Like, it's so ominous that I can't actually get it in a proper shot to show you. Is that not beautiful? At one point I think that was the Royal Bank of Scotland, but now it's like a restaurant, and I think there's a nightclub underneath as well. I don't really go clubbing anymore, it's been a while. I'm an old man now, children, no clubbing for me. But it's beautiful, look it up, it's stunning in there. This is another day where I'm going to be jumping back and forth across the street, because there's no point in going up one side of the street and come back down. It's a bit windy today, so I'm hoping that you're not being, you know, just hearing wind, really. I hope you can hear me. Although I have been described that way before. And right opposite the Caledonian Hotel, Hard Rock. Now, as Hard Rock cafes go, if you go to a lot of Hard Rock cafes, this one's really quite small. It's really quite small. Simple as that. It's just, I mean, I know the one in London actually isn't actually that big either. The original one is not that big either. So it's maybe more sort of size with that. But I like the Hard Rock. I like the food, sorry. Might actually be easier for me to, the central reservation is car parking spaces. Might be easier for me just to walk down that instead of jumping back and forth. George Street's got lots of fancy restaurants, not so much brand name restaurants, just nice restaurants and bars. And this was always a place when I was younger, the clubs that are here we never came to because we couldn't afford it. But yeah, all the shops and everything are just beautiful here. You want some proper shopping. It's like there's places on here, like that building there beside the Hard Rock, it just says the Royal Society of Edinburgh. Like, Royal Society of what? Only certain people will know what that is. I have no idea. It's the Royal Society of what? I want to know though. Okay, so if you remember my map of the new town, if you haven't seen that video, there's a link in the corner. We hit the first crossover, Hanover Street, joining up Princess Street, George Street, Queen Street down there. These roads are generally busy. They're always really quite busy. It's not a quiet bit of town, but then where is? Traffic wise though, it's quite busy, which is quite rare because they're trying harder and harder to get people to stop driving into town. More and more trams, more and more roadworks, all these sort of things. It's not working, but they're trying. So as we get onto the second block of George Street here, this is where all the shops start to come in. And you can see, I don't recognise any of those names. They will be shops that some of you might know, I don't. However, that shop's intriguing me. It looks very quirky. Thanks, boss. Don't know what's in it, but I like it. And then, you know, it wouldn't be the world we live in now without a Starbucks, but it is a beautiful street to just come along and visit and look at all these incredible buildings. Nowadays, the world we live in now, a street this wide is rare. And the funny thing is, for the way we live now with the amount of traffic and everything like that, we need streets should be built this size now. It's a whole lot easier to get about. So many nice shops here. But when they built it, they thought, oh, this is way too big, you don't need a street this wide. And actually it got criticised as being monotonous. The buildings were monotonous. Have a look at these buildings. How can anyone describe it as monotonous? I mean, look at those beautiful architecture and buildings, but no. All these beautiful big buildings here were described as monotonous, ladies and gentlemen. I don't quite know what to say about that. There's assembly rooms there. Assembly rooms, it's got a beautiful theatre in it and a couple of other spaces. During obviously the festival, busy. I mean, you've seen that. If not, I'll put a link to the festivals where we came along here this year. But lots of stuff going there, and it's busy all year round with events and shows and things like that as well. How could you describe this as monotonous? Yeah, okay, if grand architecture, it's one of those days. Grand architecture, if grand architecture wasn't your thing, yeah, okay, but at the time, we're talking about 250, almost 300 years ago. How could, what did they want if this was monotonous? I don't get it. Wow, I'm stuck on this, haven't I? I'm ranting again. But again, it's all beautiful shops. Now, well, that's a van, sorry. It's all just beautiful shops and pubs and a skeleton in a window. Genuinely don't know why. Why not, I would suppose, is the answer to that. And then there's a karaoke bar there. Just go in, book a room, and you and my mates can karaoke all night long. I think that fits in well with the spirit of the street, don't you? Yeah, it's a nice street to come along and do some fancy shopping. There's not a massive amount to show you because that's what it is. It's beautiful shops, like high-class shops. It's not really got massive big things to show you. You know, maybe points that I want to point out to you, because it's all just these beautiful buildings that were all designed as houses, and all these lower front shops were designed as tea rooms and libraries and things like that originally, and then gradually got turned over into shops, which is kind of what they are now all the way along. I don't know how many cafes and libraries they think they probably needed, but that's what they were originally thought as. And now we're on to the next sort of cutting street again from Queen Street there, that we're on Frederick Street now, cutting over straight down to Princess Street again. You can just see top right hand corner, just there. That's the castle starting to peek through there a little bit. But again, we just continue on to more. I mean, look at that monotonous building there. Isn't that just the boringest thing you've ever seen? Same as that, look at that, boring. When you think of the beautiful buildings we built nowadays, how that's just, oh, I don't know what they were thinking. I think the thing about George Street is, it's not one you're going to come along and really remember unless you want to go to these higher end sort of shops. And they're not really names, they're high-end local businesses, so that's a nice thing as well. There are names, obviously, but it is good to come along, and you will get some beautiful restaurants here. If you really want to try some good food, I would definitely head on to George Street. There's restaurants here that I'm like, I would like to come in and try them. They look nice. So yeah, I would recommend, if you want to find somewhere different to eat that's not on the Royal Mile, come down here. Not really pub food, this is more restaurant. There is Wetherspoons a little bit further back, that's definitely pub food, but most of it is nice restaurants and shops. So it's not going to be one that sticks in your head and go, this was a fantastic place to visit. It's not going to be one that you go, you know what was my favourite street, George Street. It won't be that, but it will be, hey, that's nice. Like this shop here, Hamilton and Inches. And if you come around Britain, if you ever see this, it's quite unique. And you'll see a few of these shops around town. Now you see that shop there, Hamilton and Inches, I just spotted this. See how it's got that, the royal crest there, above the shop. allowed to have that above the shop if you deliver, if you supply the royal family in some way. So that means that shop, which is a jeweller's, supplies the royal family. That gives you the level that we're talking about here. Now you'll spot them around the place a lot in Edinburgh. There's one just off the Royal Mile, it's a laundrette with the royal crest above it, because it's the closest laundrette to Holyrood Palace. That makes sense, doesn't it? So yeah, you can spot around town, you'll see a few of them. That was good, I'm glad I saw that. There we go, just showing you some more, you know, boring architecture. You know what, you see this sort of thing here, that there. It's a shame we don't do that anymore in buildings. Don't you think? Isn't it a shame that we don't build buildings now with statues and like gargoyles and things on them? We totally should. I want that job. I want to be gargoyle designer for buildings. Gargoyle. I can't say gargoyle now. I'm having one of those speaking days where I can't. Like, wouldn't you want to go in there for something to eat? Look at that, that's beautiful. Getting hungry again. It's only like 11 in the morning, I'm looking at these restaurants and I'm getting hungry. Then we hit the third crossover street, Castle Street. Again, so named if you can't remember why. Because you get a view of the castle. The original with the thinking that way. But again, Princess Street, George Street, Queen Street, Rose Street and Thistle Street. Cutting them off halfway as well. If you haven't seen the Newtown video, then this means nothing to you. And another Starbucks coffee. How much coffee do we drink nowadays? I'm not a coffee drinker, I'm a tea drinker. I can't stand coffee. It's too bitter, I don't get it. I definitely am thinking about food now, isn't that bad? It's like coming up for 11 o'clock in the morning, I'm looking at all these restaurants just opening and I'm like, yeah, okay. I know we're a small YouTube channel and I like that, but if we ever got to the point one day where, hey, let's do a meet-up and just say hi some of you guys, I think we'd have to do it in a pub so that I can have some pub food at the same time. The funny thing is, Andy from a video a couple of weeks ago, the Piper, he's met more of you than I have. I've met none of you. He's met 2 so far. Anyway, so we're coming to this, we're on the last section of George Street now, and it gets to having less. I mean, there are shops, fabric shops there. But that above it, that's part of the architecture on a bed and fabric shop. Where else would you get that? I'm going to recommend a couple of places down this end though. That I'm going by reputation rather than me trying, to be honest. Though Tiger Lilies is apparently really nice if you come down this end, and Brown's right there, again apparently really nice if you come down this end of George Street. 2 places to try if you want to get something to eat. So randomly, after I just said I've never met any of yous, taxi driver right there, Simone, hi Simone, literally just said, called me across the street and went, I watch your videos. What are the chances of that? What is the chances of that? So, hi Simone, really nice to meet you. Thank you for watching the videos. I'm all chuffed. That's great, I'm really happy. I've met one of you, thank you very much. So yeah, restaurants, things to see. I would definitely say come down here. I was just chatting to Simone and we were talking about the architecture, that it is beautiful. There's some beautiful hotels. There are some beautiful restaurants, but yeah, I'm going to keep coming back to the fact that it's not the most, it's not a place you're going to go, you know what my favourite place was? It's George Street. However, if you're going to come along, you're going to see some beautiful architecture, you're going to see some beautiful restaurants and shops, and then you're going to go somewhere else and then you're going to remember that more. However, but come down and have a look. It is lovely and well worth a visit. And there we are, we're at the end of George Street now. So I think, guys, let me go to the middle of the street without getting run over. That'd be sad. I think that's probably about it for today, guys. So please remember, if you haven't already, subscribe, share a video, like the video, all that stuff that I don't enjoy saying, but it would actually help us out a lot if you could do that. And until next time, bye humans.